Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Living Tasawwuf, Living Islam. And we continue in this series of the secrets of the Salat. Here, Ibn al-ʿarabi points out to looking at the Salats in a different way. The secret of the Salat, the inner meaning. And therefore, he conditions us by using the word secret to look beyond the physical appearance of the matters, beyond the sensory, getting into the meaning of things, in particular about the time. We have spoken about the time itself, as Sidi Yasser has indicated. It already is the first barrier broken. When we speak about time in English, we are deficient in defining something that has different dimensions. Some belong to, we have to distinguish when we speak about time and things that belong to the sensory, that they don't have reality. This is Waqt, the instant. This is a way of focusing, and is always described in relation to the movement of things. So we, the sun, we observing, and this thing happening to us, and it forms a clock. And there's a man which is nothing but the time between two Waqt, so therefore it's also, it doesn't have a reality. It has only a reality relative to our position, where we are in the world. But there is also the time as an absolute that is different. And that is necessary in order to understand when we say the word time in English, it could mean one of these three things. So what is a confusion? If you speak in Arabic, this thing is clarified. This is important because then he continues into defining that the prayers have been assigned, clearly defined. And Allah has said, this is the time given to you for the prayers. And this is significant. But it's not arbitrary, as you can imagine, but they require an understanding, and a special way of understanding, in order to get into the secret of these affairs. In the introduction, Ibn al-Ārabī, throughout this text, he gives a warning, a reminder of how do you have to change yourself in order to understand what follows. He's not speaking to the ordinary people, he's speaking to people that they are already initiated. In fact, this text of the Futuhat al-Makkiyah is directed to people in an elevated state. Not just murids, but elite. So, if we want to understand, we have to catch up with it. After describing the question of time itself, or the time as we should say in English, then he enters into the time of Dhuhr, and then the time of Asr. He explains things like the gap and the continuum. There is a time in which all the prayers happen, and there is a gap. Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, ʿIshaʿ and Fajr again. And then there is a gap. The gap is between after the prayer of Fajr and the prayer of Dhuhr. At this time, there is no obligatory prayers. All the others, they are continuing. So one is followed by the other. One is followed by the other. The time of Dhuhr ends with the beginning of Asr, and Asr with Maghrib, and Maghrib with ʿIshaʿ, and ʿIshaʿ with Fajr. But there is a gap there. And he explained this thing. Now he continues into the realm, the Salat of Maghrib, and then ʿIshaʿ and Fajr. This is the night time. And the Shaykh is going to give us a number of different criteria in order to understand what that time is. Remember that the purpose here is to recognize that the times are not arbitrary. They're not just giving a time, neither you can just look at the walls and say, this is the time of these, prayer number 1, prayer number 3, or something. But that they have a time, a particular moment in which they occur. And they represent, just like biologically speaking, there are signs of the day and the night. Your body responds according to them. So it's spiritually. Spiritually, you are inclined to align yourself with those moments. And one of the criteria he uses is the idea of the governing names, divine names, the names of Allah, the governing names of Allah, according to each one of these times of the prayer, or the zaman between the prayers. And he therefore assigns to each one of these daily prayers, the salawat, an interpretation from the meaning in regard to that the time carries a meaning. So what happens to you when the sun is in the zenith? What happens at Maghrib? What happens during the night? What happens when the sun is arriving again? That's the notion. So the idea of the governing names, each waqt represents a locus for a specific name. And the governance, the hukum of each one of these names ends when the next one begins. There is a corresponding inner state, which is not an emotion, but is a Maqam, a spiritual mode through which you can align yourself to this divine name. And then there are transitions. The transitions are the Barzakh. These are the two Barzakhs. The two Barzakhs is the Barzakh of Maghrib, which is a turning point, is the sunset and the sunrise. And there are inner Barzakhs between Dhuhr and al-Asr and Maghrib and ʿIshaʿ and Fajr itself. But there are astronomical Barzakhs, and there are separations, inner separations, hidden separations between Dhuhr and al-Asr and then Maghrib and ʿIshaʿ. So what it represents, this way of thinking of the Shaykh, is that the cycle of the day, that means the sun going around, mirrors a journey inwardly, affecting your heart and affecting your nerves, therefore. And from manifestation, the daylight, to the concealment, the butun or the Batin, the Zahir and the Batin, which is the coming of the switching off the lights and the switching off the lights, as if it were. And this cycle of the day now represented in terms of ultimately the changes in your state. Okay, this is the general idea. So when it comes to the Salat al-Fajr, he says the governing name is al-Nur. It's normal that it will be al-Nur because of when the light starts manifesting. Literally, around you, the sun starts rising, and then you start seeing everything comes from the darkness. It's like an unveiling of the day. Things come to sight. Remember that in the old days, they didn't have the lights of today. Even when you try to use the astronomical measurements for Subuh, we struggle because we are in Ankara, 3 million people or 4. The light of the buildings already inundates the atmosphere, and it's very difficult to see what is happening. But in the days in which this thing didn't exist, the experience of daylight was like literally being able to see again. They had lights, they had little candles and things, but not electrical light continuously flying. And nevertheless, despite these differences in the way we experience now the rising of the day, it represents as a whole a change in which in our activities and the way we operate within the daylight. So the symbolism of this is like the coming into being. It's not exactly, we know that the things are there, the mountain is there, but it becomes visible suddenly. You can see all the differentiation, all the things, and noticeable. It's a kind of awakening, not just waking up from bed, but an awakening of the senses. And the time that follows is a time of you participate in the ordinary activities of the day, and intention comes into being. The important thing of these daily activities is the intention you play in the things you do. Then it comes Dhuhr, and in Dhuhr, the manifestation, the key manifestation, is Zahir. It's the manifestation itself, the name of Allah, al-Zahir, the manifest. The key of this moment, which is the Waqt of this moment, is when the sun is at the highest. It's a moment of clarity and disclosure. The clarity is the fact that the sun is at its maximum, the maximum light possible, and it's like you have no shadows. Is because the sun is right there in the epic and in the zenith. And he said the inner state is gratitude and awe and humility. We will go through these things, don't worry. It says, I'm just going to outline the main ideas, and then we will go bit by bit. So the symbol of this is the summit of manifestation with no shadows. He plays very important thing about the shadows. In the ʿAsr, the time of ʿAsr, is a moment of two governing names, al-Akhir and al-Batin. It's the beginning of the night, and the night is al-Batin. Remember, Dhuhr, al-Batin, the manifestation and the hidden. No? Allah is the manifestation and the hidden. So we enter now into that zone of the night. Remember that Maghrib is done just after the sunset. It's technically night. And then Isha, and then Subuh, which is technically night. It's just before the rising of the sun. So we said, the Shaykh says, this is the time of the inner state that reflects these. The governing name is takafur and khawf. Takafur means reflection. Tafakkur is reflection, fear, khawf, and patience, sabr. all I want from you is to understand these connections. We will go into the details, don't worry. So don't try to understand, please. Just simply notice that there is a corresponding state at this very moment. And then I continue. The Shaykh continues. Now, Maghrib is the governing name is Batin, because we are night. It's a transition between the day and the night, but it's already technically night. The unity reasserts itself by means of dissolving into darkness and then opening a new chapter, a new state for you in the form of Fajr, which is need. Now, we have spoken before about separation and gatherness. Separation is farq, and then you have jam. Jam is gathering. Separation is whether you become aware of the multitude of the manifestation. You can see this is a moment for the daylight. And then the night is an invitation to go into from farq to jam. And the jam, the gathering and the farq, the need, is complementary ideas. So in the gatheredness with Allah, to become gathered with Allah, is complementary to the notion of being completely in need with Allah. And so, which goes alongside with the notion of focusing in the Batin, in the what is hidden, is the night. Okay? And it's a moment also of turning to Allah. So Maghrib is that moment of the night in which you become aware of that. Then it comes ʿIshaʿ. And ʿIshaʿ is also the manifestation, the governing name is al-Batin. And the Ghafur, this is a special moment for forgiving, asking for forgiveness. It's also the time of tears, we said. The time of the Zaman of ʿIshaʿ is all the way from the end of Maghrib until the beginning of Fajr. And it's the dark night. It's the moment of the unseen. Is the moment for the inner discourse. Is the inner state is intimacy and forgiveness. So, indicating the fact that after the coming of ʿIshaʿ, this is the time to recollect yourself and to gather. So, imagine that we're speaking here about the cycle of the day, represented by Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and ʿIshaʿ, with a governing name, essentially Nur, the coming of the day, and then Dhuhr, which is the Zahir, and then the Batin at night. And with physical directions that they are indicated by the changing of the position of the sun in relation to us, indicating moments of manifestation and a realm of the hidden, day and night, with a consequent change in your states. That's all. Simple. Keep it simple. There is more. This is just the beginning of explaining the different types of moments of the day. Then he says, the time before Dhuhr, this is from the sunrise to the zenith. This is moment we have spoken of it as the gap. He has spoken before, that there is a continuous of all the prayers happening one in succession, one after the other, but there is this time in which the sun rises, and typically speaking, mankind dedicates itself to labor, whatever it is that they do. This is the time of daily activity. People go and work in a particular craft, or they go and trade. This is the time of this. It's the time of human behavior, normally human behavior, the tabi'ah in Arabic. Neutral actions, but they are elevated by intention. The key to this moment is the intention. Then it comes Dhuhr, which is immediately after the zenith, is a moment of divine clarity, worship through gratitude, or awe, to be at awe with Allah, taqwa. At the very moment in which the center of the day, the light is at its maximum. There is a transition between the zawal, that is moment immediately after the zenith, and asr. It is a moment that is, astronomically speaking, it represents when the shadow becomes the same length as you. So if you are standing and you see that your shadow has reached the same length as you, that's the time of Asr. Approximately when the sun is in 45 degrees against the horizon. So what happens there is the beginning of an spiritual reorientation. The sign starts to decline. The light starts to decline. It's like the beginning of the veiling. You become aware this thing is going to become dark. And it's a moment of that inspires humility before the complete fading of this clarity in the sense of light. And you start learning, or you become prepared for what he calls the adab of hiddenness. So the Asr moment is the night is coming. I'm just quoting and trying to use the citations from even al-ʿarabi, knowing that they open up to several interpretations. That's why I'm telling you, don't try to. Don't do it. Just let you hear it and understand the general meaning of what we are saying. That there is something is happening, it's not just arbitrary, and it's affecting you. And indications of what is the state that aligns to this moment of the day. Okay, this is the general idea. So Asr, then it comes the Barzakh, and there is a whole discourse about the two witrs, and he calls Maghrib witr because is uneven, is odd, is an odd number, impar. So the other prayers, they are all in pairs, but the Maghrib is not. 3. And he said, and there is another prayer, another witr in the middle of the night, which is what we call witr, which is also 2 plus 1. And he said, and then with the 2 pairs, then you complete the matter. We will go on to this. So this is the first witr, the Maghrib, and indicates is that you becoming a witness of the transition. And he's odd. He is going to look into all these matters in great detail. But the fact that it's 3 is not arbitrary either. Then it comes ʿIshaʿ, which is you are in the time of the night. It's the time of the ghaib, of what is hidden. You move into the meaning of things. You had been exposed to the sensory, now you focus into the meaning. It's a time for you to realize that there is a little bit more than just things you do, but there is meaning into the matters, it is a time to focus inwardly, and that means seeking nearness to Allah. It's time for dhikr, it's time for the ideal time for the night prayers. The time, remember that the Sufis have spoken about the night as the time of the lovers, and so that's even al-ʿarabi very clearly. But you are moving, you become aware of forgiveness and need. The whole idea of gathering, jam, and neediness and forgiveness, they are just 3 different ways of speaking about the same matter. It's just depending the angle in which you enter. But this is the time for that. It's the time for recall, realizing. It's not a time just to kind of waste it. It is a time that has a meaning, and if you align yourself to this, you will gain not just wisdom, which you do naturally, but it's like in the words, in the imagery of Ibn al-Arabi, it's like you align yourself with the cosmos. It's like this is the moment for this. Allah has made all these things for you to become aware of this. Extraordinary. And then it comes Fajr, which is another Barzakh. Barzakh means in Arabic like the barrier, no? Is the moment of moving from one position to the other, some threshold. The Barzakh of your room is when you get out of the room. That door is the Barzakh. You open the door, you move to the outside, you are outside, that's the Barzakh. So from day to night, 2 Barzakhs. There is also a Barzakh between the moment of Dhuhr, because Dhuhr and Asr, which is the 45 degrees of the sun. But they have meaning. None of these things are arbitrary. Okay? And then there is also the forbidden hours of the day. There are moments in which you cannot pray. It's like you're overpowered by the signs. And they said, no, now you cannot pray. Forbidden. It's actually forbidden. So the prayer ceases. You have to wait. And there is meaning in that. So overall, you can see that the notion here is that each time is a locus is a mazhar of both a manifestation and a state that follows. Okay, that's fine. Then when we enter into this next chapter of Maghrib, the next thing that the Shaykh highlights, and is almost entirely dedicated to this notion, is Maghrib is witr. He does speak when the time of the prayer is, naturally, is immediately after sunset, and the description of it, etc., which is well known to all of you, the time of Maghrib. The itibar, remember that this is a book about the itibar, and itibar is, we have already spoken in great length about itibar, is a condition of the heart. Is a consideration, is learning. To even al-Arabi is a method, is a contemplative method in whatever it is that you are focusing in the case of our interest is the sun cycle. Remember, the sun cycle in relation to us. If we do not exist, there is no sun cycle. Even the earth is not aware of being around, of the sun going around. In fact, if we were not here, there will be no such thing as a cycle of the sun. So what is happening is entirely a very different physical phenomenon. What is important here is you as an observer, and how this thing allows you to look at your servanthood, the fact that you are an slave to Allah, in its all its facets, in its curriculum, as if it were. You doing stuff, you focusing in the outward, then you focus in the inward, and keeping a balance of these alternating from gratitude to awe, to poverty, to needlessness, to watchfulness, to seek the balance, in order to complete the cycle so that you start all over again. And so the prayers then, they become landmarks, but like a landmark refers to a physical space, this is a time mark that indicates changes in you. It's fascinating to look at the matters this way. So this is the itibar. And when it comes to the itibar of Maghrib, after indicating what it is that what the time is, then he singly speaks about witr. I'm going to read you a little bit just to give you the taste of even al-Arabi. When the Prophet ﷺ saw that Allah had prescribed the witr salat of the night, that he is referring to Maghrib, adding to it, the salat of the Maghrib, the witr, that's still the witr because there is still a little bit of light. So he said he added to the obligatory salats, which is the one of Maghrib. He says the witr of daytime, and he quotes Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam by saying, "Indeed, Allah is witr, and He loves witr." So he specified Maghrib with odd numbers in the salat, and the witr of the night with the odd numbers mature of nighttime salat. And he said, indeed, Allah, and then he said, no, and then he says, he prescribed 2 odd salats, one during the night and the one during the day. And then he says, I'm not reading one of them, I'm just kind of highlighting some sentences. He says, indeed, for you, Allah has added a salat to your salats. And he mentions the witr salat, saying, so perform witr, O people of the Quran. He does liken it to the obligatory salats and commanded its performance almost like a 6th obligatory salat, but the Sharia is very clear. It's only 5, but it's almost is the closest thing to becoming obligatory, the Salat al-Witr of the night. And then he goes on to, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, all of things we created 2 mates, in order to say why these 2 are paired. And then he more or less, he said that this second witr, the one of the night, is it completes a cycle that has been started with Salat al-Maghrib and is not completed until you do the other witr. Based on the fact that Allah had made these odd numbers also in a pair. That all the others, they have pairs, but this one is odd. It's 3. It's 3. And so how it is, except by the fact that they are corresponding to one another. Please don't try to understand. Just leave it the way it is, don't worry. There are important things here that you can only understand much later on. Okay, so this is more or less the discourse of witr. The 2 witrs, the witran. So if one, I'm going to try to kind of go through the text with my own interpretation. The daytime represents Dhuhr, the manifestation, no? The Zahir, the Dhuhr, and the Batin. And so the time of the first witr is immediately following the vanishing of the light, and the moment of the second witr is in the last part of the night, after Isha, and just before Fajr. That's why when I've been with Sufis, and you notice when you are in their company, I noticed it in Morocco the first time I visited, that they do Salat al-Isha, and they do almost immediately after, they do the Sunnah, and then they do the Witr. And you notice that those people that you know, because they're in the Zawiyah with you, that they go before the Witr. So they don't pray it with the Jama'ah. And the reason is, they wait until the perfect moment for Witr, which is at the end of the night. There is a reason, the reason why it has been established in some communities to do it after Isha is if they fear they're not going to be able to wake on time in order to pray Salat al-Witr. And so that's the justification. But the right time is just before Subuh. And if you are in the Zawiyah with when we were in the Zawiya, you notice that the night was full of activity, number one. And that there was, just before Subuh, there was the people in the Zawiya, and I'm thinking right now in the Zawiya of Shaykh and Habib, that there was a lot of people sleeping there. And so the people will wake up and they will do the 3 rakats and they just wait until Isha. Normally one of them was the one giving the adhan. So there is a time for the witr, and in a sense, what the Shaykh is trying to highlight of these two is that one is in the domain of the outward, the one of Maghrib, and the other one is in the realm of the inward. Even though the Maghrib is in the boundaries in the Barzakh, because it's technically night, but even al-ʿarabi gives to the realm of these first witr the condition or the key is the outward, but in the sense of returning to home, as if the night is a moment of presence, and inward one is to do with the affairs of the world, which is now concluding, and you move into the world of presence, which is the night. And that's why he sees these two pair each other, they complement each other. As if the world dissolves into the source. This is Maghrib. This is what he calls the witr of the day. It is the dissolving into the source, and in the one of the night is the heart that dissolves into its origin, is within. So one is the acknowledgement of the change outwardly, and another one is the acknowledgement of is profound, but in a different way. And the two of them are one mirror of each other. Okay, and this is the central discourse when it comes to the Salat al-Maghrib. He doesn't say much except this question of the witr, but with a big explanation. Now, we move into the Salat al-Isha, and here, apart from defining what is the beginning and the proper beginning, the right beginning, he says, and what is the other versions of the matter. Apart from all that, I'm not going to enter into this. These are matters of the Sharia. It's very easy to find the Maliki way, and that's it. But the itibar, when it comes to the itibar, then, okay, it changes. It starts to speak in a language that you have to just go through it rather than try to understand. He says, for example, I'm reading literally, know that Al-Haq has divided the cosmos into 3 levels. And he has divided the awqat of Salat in 3 levels. 3 levels. So the first thing is that, what do you mean? The cosmos is divided in 3 levels. What are these 3 levels? And he says, the word for levels is maratib, by the way, because the English is always confusing. The maratib. So the 3 levels are, number 1, alam, the world, literally, of al-shahada. That means witnessing. Then the alam of the khayal, is to do with the Barzakh, and the alam al-ghaib. The first two is very easy to understand. It's like shahada is witnessing, and the ghaib is the unseen. So you mean from witnessing to unseen. And in the middle, the Barzakh. And this is, he says, this is how the world is structured. The cosmos. And therefore, this has a meaning into the timing of the Salat. We will come to this. So, the Barzakh, for him, well, let's explain it in the simplest way. The visible world. So there is a visible world, the sensory, the manifest, the material. That's easy to understand. And there is the unseen world. The akal, the world of akal, the world of spirituality, is the meaning of things. One is centered around the things that you sense, and the other world is centered around the meaning of things. So far, so good. And a kind of boundary world, in the world, in the words of Ibn al-Arabi, representing something like intermediate realm, almost like half visible, half hidden. Okay, 3 levels. Please don't try to understand. So how can you do this? Just kind of visualize it. The visible, the invisible, and the Barzakh. So now you understand the manifestation, because one is the outward, the Zahir, another one is the Batin. The Zahir and the Batin. So one links you to the body, the actions, the forms, and the other one links you to the essence, to the Ruh, to the nearness to Allah. It's clear, right? This fails. And then the bridge in between. There is a bridge between the seen and the unseen. The alam, he calls the alal al-khayal, between these two worlds. And he says, this is how al-haq self-discloses itself. So Allah discloses itself, the truth. It discloses itself by means of the forms, and the forms by something which is unseen, which is to do with the meaning. It's unseen. There are things that you can touch, and you can measure, and you can hold, and you are the center of these, looking at them. And then there is the world in between. It's a world between imagination, and imagination is always represented by the sensory, and reflection. It's in between. And the timings of these is the prayers that they are contained within the daytime are Fajr. He includes Fajr here because it's in between, I suppose. But he does say this is the Fajr, the Dhuhr, and the Asr. He said, Alam al-Shahada, the realm of the witnessing. So let's go. And what is the Batini? No? The time of the Batin, or the Alam al-Ghaib, is ʿIshaʿ. Is the time of concealment, of intimacy with Allah. So, and the Alam al-Shahada is the visible order. Is your interaction with the visible order. And Maghrib, to him, is the Barzakh, no? Is the transition between day and night. And it represents, is as if is a return on the one side, and the other one is the acknowledgement of the something is left behind and you're moving to something new. And the gathering between the two. Perhaps that's the best explanation. The moving from multiplicity to unity. That's the Barzakh. So, in terms of the human, this is like three states. One is a world that is the visible cosmos, an imaginary world, which is represented by this Barzakh. And this is quite an interesting thing he says here, because he puts imagination not entirely into the world of Waham, which will be the expression of something that is entirely based on the sensory, but he uses Khayal in a world of imaginary, but still in between the coming together or the self, the necessity, the self-necessity of the one in order to understand the other. So in the meaning, it doesn't dismisses the world of manifestation, which you would in some other discourses. For example, when we read Muli al-Arabi Darkawi, it says, hey, be careful with the sensory world. And here's the whole discourse about majesty outwardly, I don't need you, and beauty inwardly, I need. And how this simplified version of matter is often interpreted as everything which is sensory is bad, but not the way Ibn al-Arabi is presenting. He's saying there is good in both if you understand the Barzakh. So the Barzakh is very important in the way he's speaking about this. So Barzakh is transition, in which you return to the inward. You have been in the outward, that's not bad, it's just you return, you kind of put the balance. And this is the purpose of Maghrib, according to him. So, in essence, these three worlds or three levels of which he speaks is Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, manifest, Maghrib, intermediate world, and Isha, the hidden world. The first three is a world of actions, from Fajr to Dhuhr to Asr is the world of actions. Maghrib itself is the reflecting moment, and then Isha is the time of the Ruh. And sometimes he says also in his writing, the time of the lovers. As I said, don't try to understand, don't try to categorize, just simply feel what he's saying. Then he continues, having said all these things about these three levels, he speaks about the two Barzakhs. And one is the Barzakh of Maghrib and the Barzakh of dawn. He had already explained that there is the Barzakh in the sense of the boundary between Dhuhr and Asr, and that is he's using the word Barzakh in its literally meaning, but he's giving a sense of identity to the Barzakh of Maghrib and the Barzakh of Fajr. And what does it mean? The Barzakh. Remember that this is preceded by the notion of intermediation. Okay, but he is recalling everything, and is not a commentary of the previous statement, is something of his own. His present is almost like complete different. I'm going to explain this thing now in a complete different way. With the question of Barzakh. If you pay attention to the Barzakh, what does it mean to the prayers and to the meaning of the prayers? So, he states, the Barzakh of the day, the Barzakh of Maghrib, or the sunset prayer, rather, we have to use, is when the daylight meets the darkness. The other one is when the darkness meets the day. So, the Barzakh of Maghrib is the easiest way to identify it. It is the Barzakh between the manifest and the hidden. Logically, the other one is the Barzakh between the hidden and the manifest. Huge for him is you're moving from the outward to the inward in the case of Maghrib, and the other one is going to be from the inward to the outward. And they are fundamental events. This is, you are turning. Meaning the time that you have dedicated to your Lord now, where He has kind of closed the light, now is going to become a moment of manifestation, to celebrate in the most splendid way by means of a prayer, indicating to you the monument event that is about to happen, reminding you of your very nature, which if you have not become aware of the inward, you will not be able to be aware of the outward. That's why it's so important about the Barzakh. It's a turning point. It's indicating to you, it's telling you your world is about to change, so that you understand who you are and what is happening to you. I found it monumental. I found it like dissolving in this, and without even trying to understand. It's just the very notion that these prayers have a purpose for you. It is extraordinary. In the Maghrib, all the visible things are going to move into concealment. Don't you see something is happening here? Everything goes into darkness. Concealment. The only thing that is happening outwardly is the sun setting. But to him is the Dhahir. It's that, what he calls the hukum of the names. It kind of moves to one another. Everyone who understands Tawheed, the first formulation is that the Dhahir and the Batin is the manifestation. Allah is the inward, the outward, and the inward and the outward. So you cannot say the outward is the absence of. That's ignorance. Neither you can say Allah is only the inward, is both the inward and the outward, the first and the last. Full manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there is a moment in one he says he becomes dominant, and the other one, and this is to do with the human. Remember that these times have no reality. Okay, so this is for the human. Is an instruction to the soul. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for any observer, there is no day or night. You have to be a human being to understand this. or at least leave animals also realize day and night. You have to be alive, and you have to do this planet, and you have to be in a location. And then this thing happens to you. So the key of this matter is the alignment. And the alignment celebrated by the Salat. Wow. It's just, it's immense. I mean, he says things like this. He says, the multiplicity returns to the origin. And you can feel it. To the Waqt. At that very moment of the prayer. So it's a return. And we as the servants, we stand on this edge of manifestation, witnessing this thing happening. And we've celebrated this glorious prayer. Bow into him. It is extraordinary. So he says, what happened to the heart? He says an immense number of things. I mean, and you can see that many, if you read the text as it comes about, almost all the states overlap each other, depending on how you look at it. For example, he says, in Maghrib, it's brokenness and need, farq, faqr as in need, fuqara, need, extreme need, which corresponds to jam. Okay, if you go to the need to the end, you are in gathering. And why? Why you are broken? You are broken because you recognize that all appearance is fleeting. Dear God, we will indeed die, and all the appearance will disappear. It's like a little death. Either all this thing is going to go, it's going to switch it off. It's fleeing. It's like everything that you saw suddenly kind of disappears. And that's why he said, that's why Maghrib is short and immediate, because it expresses the urgency to return to the total night. And that's how it is said about the Salat al-Maghrib, it's better for the Imam to choose the short ayats. In the other Barzakh, the long ayats. But in this, it's urgent. It's like, boom. And the time given is very little. There is an urgency in this. The urgency of return, like somebody who can wait. It's unbelievable. To think about Maghrib like this is extraordinary. I found it just completely extraordinary. And so, the second Barzakh, okay, well, it's the emergence of the manifestation. So, from hiddenness to manifestation. It's also renewal. Okay, something that, as if a new creation happens. Something new for you. A different world. And this is so profound that it gives me goosebumps in every cell of my body. The thought that because of the night, this day is going to be different to anything that you have ever experienced. Don't you feel this thing? Doesn't it make you melt into the floor? The night has a meaning so that you can see into the world. And by means of your recognition of the meaning, now you can look into the world, into a new world that is not like the day before. Every day is different. On account of what? It's the same thing. I live in the same house. Everything is on the account of the meaning to whom you have, that you have acquired during the night. And then you separate. You see how it's going to go, right? And you're going to separate. And you're going to be lost in the world. And you're going to be full of stuff. And you're going to be both thankful and watchful. And this is the time in which you have to pay attention to the intention. What protects you there is the intention. And if you can renew the intention, which is a matter of the meaning, then this day changes before you. And then you get lost. And then Maghrib comes, and this is that now I'm returning, and you are rushing into this event of gathering again because I am coming back home. And it's the night of intimacy and forgiveness. Forgive me for forgetting. Wow, this is immense. This is huge. The two Barzakhs. So Ibn al-Arabi says, these two Barzakhs, they are paired. One exists with the other. One is ascending, one is ascending. They are mirror of each other. Clearly, in the timing, it's just, outward dissolves into inward, or then inward unfolds into outward. In both cases, the act of the prayer is to bring you to Allah. In both events, whether you're moving from the outward to the inward or the inward, the key point is you return. And that's what the prayer comes in. Don't tell me that you can possibly pray the same way. So, when you now become aware that Allah is going to present a new world to you that is conditional to your state, that you have become now aware of something extraordinary, and you seal that new beginning on the basis of the Tawheed. It is brutal. This is huge. It's huge. So there are moments of transition, but there are moments. It's a prayer. Imagine that very moment you go and you say, I belong to you, I am of you. And you, at that very moment, with the very ihsan, you celebrate, you feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that it will fill you. And it will allow you to encounter the day in that state. That's why Islam is the only possible religion. That's why you have to thank Allah for being a Muslim every half an hour. And if you're really wise, every 5 minutes. It is extraordinary. It is extraordinary. What Ibn al-Arabi is presented to you in this kind of extraordinarily simple at the same time. It's complicated if you try to understand it. But if you just let yourself go into it, it is insane. It is insane. It's like giving, and he is only talking about the timing. Then he's going to speak about what is the thing that you are doing in the prayer. Somebody was telling me, shouldn't these be taught when everybody becomes a Muslim, this should be part of the teaching. I agree. Except to teach this is not like read a book. You can read it. I invite you to read this text. Many people do. They don't understand. So, he keeps teasing you with ideas. Closure of multiplicity. Now, you will never think that way, but invite yourself, allow yourself to think the multiplicity close. This is Maghrib, closure. And the Subh is the beginning of multiplicity. You prepare yourself for this event. Then you will understand. He said the inner state in Maghrib is neediness, humility, awe. At Subh, Fajr, is watchfulness, gratitude, awakening. Awakening in the sense of something extraordinary and new is coming to you. New, renewal. Day after day. Do you understand why the prayer is for us? Is that how can you live without it? You ask yourself. How can you be so brute as to ignore what is happening to you and go like a thug into the world? Just kind of, it doesn't matter. How could you even? You cannot benefit from it. You become blind to everything that Allah is giving you. There are gates. In both cases. There are passages to return to Allah. In both cases. Means to become grateful to Allah. Subhanallah wa Allahu Akbar. So, as even al-Ghafur says, if the servant who prays aware of these thresholds, he becomes a mirror to existence. He becomes aligned. Because we don't know what we have in front of us. So we don't understand what life is without this. Day at night. Why we don't have like 3 phases instead of 2? No, Allah has made at night. Day and night. And He has chosen some people, selected, either so that they can appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that they can receive the gifts. And these are the people, these are the Muslims, and these are the people who pray. So we just leave it here. And we finish with Fatiha. Bisirri wa barakati. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم.